Hello friends, followers and channel members, welcome back to another video here in Microsoft Flight Simulator, where today we're talking about a new exciting release by the Fly-by-Wire team. Yes, the experimental version of their fantastic A320NX is back. This comes with several new features and it is being used basically to test their upcoming Lnav updates before being merged into the dev version. One of the biggest updates with this aircraft experimental version, however, is the return of TCAS. But that is just one of many new features, so let's delve in and take a look at some new additions in the experimental version that the Fly-by-Wire team have brought us. In order to download this new experimental version, you will need to run the Fly-by-Wire installer. First time you do it, you may see there is no option to download the experimental version. The installer will automatically update itself as soon as you have run it. So once you have run it, just leave it running for a minute or so. It'll then update itself. You will then need to restart the installer, and then once you've done that, you should see the experimental version is there available to select, where of course you install it as you have done previously before. We're going to start by looking at a departure out of London Gatwick, which requires the aircraft to overfly a specific waypoint before making its first turn en route. Now, prior to this experimental version being released, the aircraft wouldn't do this and we had to fly it manually. We're going to see if the new experimental version can do it automatically, as it should, and as you can see, the McDo now still connects to your tablet or phone. So here is the chart for the departure that we are going to test out. We are going to depart runway 26 left at Gatwick on the Frame 1 Mike departure. Looking at the chart below, you can see that this tells us we need to fly out on our runway heading, and then at a distance of 2.3 miles, that is the point at which we can begin our right-hand turn. Now, previously what happened prior to this update is you would take off, and if you were in nav mode, then the aircraft would begin its turn too soon. You can see here the routing is clearly written down straight ahead to a distance of 2.3 miles from the ILS DME, and then and only then can you begin the right hand turn. So what would happen prior to this is if you engage the autopilot after departure, you wouldn't get to the 2.3 mile distance before beginning the right hand turn. So we're going to have a look and see how this is shown differently in the flight plan page of the McDo. If we come down here and see, you'll see that the navigation display is already displaying a much better look. I'll pop back up to that in a moment, but what's really interesting is here you've got that little triangle icon next to the waypoint. That is the overfly symbol. So this is now an overfly waypoint, meaning that the aircraft, as you can see from this track, will overfly this waypoint before beginning that right hand turn, and to obviously then carry on out on its pre-programmed departure route. So really nice to see that it's there. Let's see what happens when we actually take off and engage the autopilot. Okay, so we have literally just departed London's Gatwick. You can see we're getting close to that overfly waypoint. I just need to go ahead, pop the aircraft into open climb, as I don't want to respect the constraints at the moment, but there it is. The improved Lnav system of the experimental version has these working overfly points, where previously if you had an overfly waypoint and the track didn't look quite right, you'd have to fly that manually in heading mode. Manually, that is, selecting the heading. Of course, you could leave that in autopilot to do the work, but now we no longer have to. Nav mode for the overflies is working really nicely. Now, the overfly points are normally built into the navigation database automatically, but you can create your own. So what I'm going to try and do here is I'm going to set this particular waypoint and show you how you would select that as an overfly. As you can see at the moment, the track is to bank slightly short of that, but if we make this into an overfly point, it should change the path. And in order to do that, we select the overfly button down here on the McDo, again that little triangle, select the waypoint in question, and then I'm just looking as I come up now. There's not actually been a track change here on the navigation display. I don't know if that's something that is still yet to come from the Fly-by-Wire team, or it's because I'm actually doing this at the moment sat here on the ground. Any of you flying at the moment, try this out. Any waypoint which has got a sort of sharp turn to it, if you select it as an overfly point, does it indeed change the track on the navigation display? Let me know down in the comments below how you get on with that. I mentioned a little earlier in the video as well, one of the huge things that has changed for this is the return of TCAS, and you can see I've got some TCAS aircraft there on the navigation display, all showing nice and cleanly, and the Fly-by-Wire teams have been working really hard to get this working accurately as the real TCAS systems work, so a full tutorial for that will be coming shortly. For now though, all you need to know is to turn this on. Normally when you load in cold and dark, that's where it would be set to standby. Make sure you turn that to TARA as you line up on the runway, and then once you've reached your cruising altitude you can go from above to below, and that will have TCAS targets shown on the navigation display as you can see just here. There's something else as well you may have noticed when scrolling through the flight plan page on your McDo. They are now showing the points at which the aircraft thinks is the latest time that you should start configuring the aircraft for landing. Now, we're used to seeing the decel point in there, but have a look and you'll see that it also shows flaps 1. A reminder, of course, these are not waypoints, they are just stages in your flight plan that the onboard computer thinks you need to start getting configured. You can also see flaps 2 is there as well. You are still the pilot flying, and this doesn't mean just because they're now in the flight plan page that they're going to be done automatically. You still have to deploy the flaps automatically. Of course, the decel point will activate the approach phase on its own, but the flap settings here, config 1 and config 2, they are the stages at which they are the latest point in your flight that these should be deployed. So really nice to see, and only Airbus aircraft with the latest computer updates have these installed. So whilst it is fantastic that we've got the experimental version back, it does come with some warnings. It is essentially a test version, and I know a few users have already been reporting crash to desktops. Safe to say I've not actually had one since I've been fiddling around with this. But they also say that it's not really designed for people to do a serious flight with or use online with things like VATSIM, just because there could still be quite a few bugs, and that is what the experimental version is there for, to basically test and iron out. The new features included in this experimental version are support for more leg types, which basically means when you're on your approach you shouldn't see such chaotic flight paths. They have now been tinkered with and hopefully looking much better. They have a better turn prediction algorithm with support for the overfly, the course capture, path capture, direct turns, reverse turns, revisions and more. Support for marking the waypoints as overflies in the flight plan page, so that should be working. Please do let me know, as I said earlier on in the comments, if you have been able to get that to work. Realistic navigation display rendering based on in real life hardware and software architecture, and fixes for performance issues over long flights. Now this is a big one, as I know several people have reported huge drops in FPS after flying this aircraft for a long time. And of course they have also implemented the first stages of the TCAS system. So I'm really excited to get on board and fly this aircraft a little bit. Will I do it on VATSIM? Well, they tell us not to, but let's see what happens, shall we? I want to know how you guys getting on with this experimental version, if you've downloaded and are using it, what problems you've come up against, if it is causing you any crash to desktops and you know it to be this specifically, and of course, have you delved into VATSIM flying with this aircraft? Let me know in the comments down below. Thanks very much for watching, guys. If you have enjoyed this video, please do hit the like button. That really does help me out. And of course, if you're new to the channel, do hit that subscribe button. And don't forget to turn on the notifications bell so you don't miss any new videos and of course, upcoming live streams in 2022. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you all again very soon. Bye bye for now.